Ton of Actually, the class itself is fine. Like it's interesting. The homework. I'm like writing essays every week. Hell no. That's the problem. I don't know how to write all the time. I'm like lost. And I'm like setting up office hours.
I was like, wait, now they're really crazy. They're like, go backwards. It's your pretty trick.
I can do it back. Yes, I am not elegant.
What's up, guys? We have a guest speaker here today. AMRAP alumni who's here to share with us 2 opportunities. Please, give a round of applause.
Here now, like wow, okay. This is also new for me because we never had like the video camera like a month. Interesting. But yeah, my name's Kashfi. I'm really happy to be here. I am an AMRAP alum, so I was here back in 2022. So it's really nice to be back. Currently I'm in the middle of my application process and like I'm currently in like the interview process and things like that. So if you guys have any questions about med school and like the whole application process, I'd love to help out with that as well. But the main reason I'm here today is to talk about 2 programs for justice impacted communities. So a little bit about these 2 programs. They actually stemmed from my experience here at AMRAP. So I think you guys still do the CATSI study. Do you guys still do that? Okay, so one of those nights I was interviewing one of our patients, and you know how those questions are pretty sensitive. And so I tried to do it in like as much of a conversational manner as I could. And through that process, she actually opened up a lot to me about her life story and her family's past with being incarcerated. And so I started to think about kind of the social forces behind the incarcerated populations we have in our community. And that led me to delve into the stories of our, communities in the Pinella Hall system and also this transitional home called Casa Teresa. I've heard some of you guys are in Casa Teresa, heard anything about that, so that's super cool to hear. So as I kept talking to residents and these people impacted by, social forces in our communities, I came across something called the social determinants of health. And I'm sure you guys know what those are, being MRAPers and all the demographic studies you guys are doing. But basically the main 5 social forces in the social determinants of health are education, economic stability, social and community context, neighborhood and built environment, and let me move the screen, healthcare access and quality. And so before I keep going, I do want to say like these are pretty sensitive topics. So if it's like heavy for you, like feel free to step outside, take a moment. So continuing on, I kept talking to these members of our community, and I realized at least one of these or multiple social forces can be linked to their cycles of trauma and their stories that they've gone through. And so another thing I came across was a lot of my residents, if this will move, had also experienced some sort of adverse childhood experience. So these are a couple of the categories of adverse childhood experiences. And it's really important to take that into context when you're working with this population. One of the first things you learn in AMRAP, right, is that you can't be enrolling these incarcerated patients in our research, and that's because they're particularly vulnerable in that situation. So it's really important to think about what social forces led these community members in that position in our healthcare system if it's not right. So continuing on, I kept going into researching the social determinants of health, and I came across kind of more subcategories that are impacting this population. And I came across income, employment, graduation rates, community safety, and things like discrimination that affect our incarcerated folks in our community. And it's really important to take these social factors into account when you're working with patients. So then I looked more into discrimination, and I came across this really discriminatory thing that the US did in the 1930s. It's called the Homeowners Loan Corporation. They did a practice called redlining, which is when they would physically circle communities that they considered high risk, and these communities happen to be homes to people of color. So I'm talking immigrants, Latino populations, Black residents, and you can only imagine the impacts that this community faced in terms of educational employment, in terms of employment rates, in terms of safe communities, and what this does to our incarcerated populations in terms of the levels of people of color we're seeing in our incarcerated population. So that's a little bit of the context behind these programs. And so the two programs I currently lead are called the GED Tutoring Program and Artiheal. So Artiheal is currently in the local juvenile hall system, and it's also in Casa Teresa right now. And then, so Casa Teresa is a transitional home for women re-entering society, if that's something you guys might be involved in, I've heard. And then the juvenile hall system has GED tutoring, Artiheal, and just general mentorship for our youth there. Currently, I'm working with the men in that cohort, but there's also women there as well. And there are people like our age or younger in these systems, and it's like a really good opportunity to be a role model to some of our incarcerated youth. So you can either reach out to Casa Teresa directly if you want to get involved with women and then re-entering society. They have programs for babysitting right now. I think that's like the main need over there, because women are going to these educational classes and they need people to kind of hold caretake their children. And then the juvenile detention facility program is a little more extensive. You have to be 21 and you do have to face like an interview and then go through some screening, background checks, things like that to make sure you're going in there for the right reasons. This is a program I particularly would love if people are interested in, just because it's pretty tough to get a lot of people interested in coming out to our local juvenile halls. So I'm looking to make the program more established so we can work towards transitional programs for these residents after they're ready to re-enter society. And then if you have any questions at all, you can just go ahead and email me right there. And then, yeah, that's all I have to say about this program. Sorry it was super long, but I hope you guys do something from that. Thank you.
Any questions, guys?
Yeah, any questions? Yes.
I was wondering, so like, what's the, you guys do with the detention hall?
Yeah. So the Artiheal program, we do, sorry, oh my God, that mic was like messing with the way I was speaking. So the juvenile hall detention facility, we do a program called Artiheal. And so we do little like art activities that address some of the traumas that they're facing. A lot of these residents, they struggle to even talk about some of the things they go through. And so I kind of use art as a medium to get them to open up a little more, but like while having another activity going. So we've done things like taking play and like having them put their hand into it and kind of like reflecting on, you know, what they're capable of and what their two hands can do in this world. Or also we had like a Lego building activity, and a lot of my residents actually have never had toys or Lego. So that was a super emotional experience for them because they had the opportunity to reflect on their childhood and things like that. So that's a little bit of the Artiheal stuff. And then the GED tutoring, some of our residents are in like community college, and then some of them are working towards getting their education in high school. So it's kind of like on a need-based basis, but you help them with their program materials and like their academics. So yeah. Any other questions? Yes.
So I know you shared a lot of like small snippets of stories that you've seen and witnessed. What was the most memorable thing that like you experienced while working?
As an AMRAP?
Or not as an MRAPper specifically, but feel free to share,
Oh.
but specifically at the.
At the juvenile hall or something
Yeah.
like that? I think one of like the most impactful moments was I was just eating dinner with one of our youth, and he was like around 13, 14. And unfortunately, he had gotten caught up in like gang violence and things like that. And we were talking about his progress in the program. And then he brought up to me that he actually got incarcerated post arriving to the ED. And he had been caught with like a gun, essentially. So when I heard that, I was just thinking about like the insane things like these young kids are dealing with, and how it's an entirely different world that some of us like might have never known. When you listen to like rap songs and they talk about like trap houses and all those things, like that is like real life for some people. It's really hard to like imagine that like such young people are facing such incredible challenges. And he actually revealed to me later he always dreamed of being an engineer before he got out like caught in like whatever the case is. And so that really struck me because I really value education. And so I think that was like a really impactful moment because I wanted to tell him like he's so young, he can still do it. He has so much life ahead of him. And so like having just a role model there is really important because some of them come from families where like getting advanced education is not even in the realm of reality. So that one really hit me. Yeah.
Thanks for sharing.
Yeah. Any other questions? Okay, yes. How about
Wait, just one more question.
Yeah.
What was the hardest thing you feel about like working at the facility?
I don't think there's anything particularly hard about it. I think if your heart is in the right place, I think it's really easy to be able to connect with them because I always come from a angle of curiosity and asking them what their life has been like, and that really helps me learn more about their experiences. I'd say like one thing is the way you communicate with these residents is really important. For example, like when I talk to myself about studying, I'm like, oh, like I'm bad at this. I need to work on this. But if you say that to my residents in the educational context there, they are really underconfident when it comes to their academics. So if you're like, oh, you need to work on this because you're not good at this, like that really impacts them. So you need to be very careful with your words. Even when you're babysitting their kids, if you call their kid like, oh, like he's the naughty one, like that's wrong because a lot of these kids, some of them were, some of my residents were pregnant with their children while they were still using substances. And so these kids might be acting out because of withdrawals and things like that. So it's really important to have kind of sensitivity to the situation and kind of compare what you say in your normal world to like how it'll impact them. Yeah. Yeah. Thank you. Any other questions? Yes.
So this one last one.
Yeah.
So for MRAPers want to get.
Yeah. Yeah, I think the first way I'd like it is like if they could contact me and tell me which program they're interested in. And then if you're not interested in Art to Heal or GED tutoring, you can always like volunteer individually and you can just reach out to those emails on the slides. You can probably send out to the slides to them. That should help them out. Yeah. Yeah. Thank you so much, guys. I'll like stick around in the back if you guys have any questions. But yeah, thank you.
Signature.
Not bad. Not bad. Gracious calendar.
I have time on this. Alright, oh, we get to show this.
Donut?
Delicious. There's a Celsius too. That wasn't shown. Okay.
Okay, so we just had Kashfi. Thank you again for making the time to be here. Just fun with some selfies at the week. Alright, let's see what, oh my goodness.
Is this in the trial event? Yeah, that was a couple hours ago. Nice.
Yeah, I was like, where is this?
Nice.
All the pipes.
Oh,
Alright.
Rohan, feeling ill today.
Yeah,
Feeling
he's
ill.
not
Hopefully he feels better soon.
Oh, he feels like this.
Okay.
Spencer, Mon. That's nice. Okay, oh my goodness. Oh, okay. Where's Galaxy Light? I saw, where's
Where's the galaxy? What?
like, pharmacists,